2 years ago, I posted a video about my then new purchase of the RIMOWA original cabin and check-in large. Since then, I've traveled with them to Barcelona, London, Tokyo, Berlin, Prague, Vienna, Budapest, and countless domestic trips within the US. They've been through airports, trains, cobblestone streets, and a lot of overhead compartments. Today, I want to give you a checkup on how they've truly held up after 2 years of real use. This video isn't about capacity or first impressions. If you want to see what fits inside or my thoughts when I first unboxed them, you can check out that original video. This one is about quality, the aging, the wear, the durability, and how the experience of using them has evolved. The amount of wear between the cabin and the check-in large is noticeably different, and that really comes down to how they've been handled. No surprise there. Let's start with the original cabin. It's held up remarkably well. There are no major scratches and not a single dent on the case, just a few marks here and there, mostly around the top and back side, likely from sliding in and out of overhead bins. It's been handled mostly by me, which makes a huge difference. I wasn't particularly trying to baby it, but it's proven to be effortless to keep in great shape. The check-in large, on the other hand, tells a completely different story. I wouldn't say it's trashed, but it's definitely on its way there. Scratches are everywhere, especially across the 4 top corners, and there are dents scattered throughout the shell. I noticed a few of them right after my first trip to Barcelona. To be honest, I don't really mind the cosmetic wear. That's exactly what I expected from an aluminum suitcase that's been checked dozens of times. What I didn't anticipate though is how some of those dents could actually interfere with its function. They can slightly affect how the case closes or how smooth the latches feel, which gets annoying over time. I'll expand on that in a minute. Still, I expected the check-in large to look like this, maybe even worse. Just think about how airport staff handle heavy luggage. Tossed, dropped, stacked, and dragged. It's inevitable. That's also how one of the locks broke when I was in Berlin. Honestly, it was both the worst and the best part to fail. Worse because depending on the damage, it could have affected how securely the case closed, but best because it was an easy fix. The RIMOWA staff replaced it in less than 3 minutes. I was lucky that I didn't need an appointment that day. Usually you do, and depending on where you are, the next available slot could be a few days out. When you're traveling, you don't always have that kind of time to wait around. So, if something breaks while you're abroad, definitely call ahead before visiting a store. It could save you a lot of hassle. After 2 years of use, there are a couple of things I've started to notice. These aren't issues specific to one size, but one does seem more likely to happen with the check-in large. The first thing is how RIMOWA secures the interior lining. Let's take the original cabin as an example. The lining is glued along the inner trim, and on some parts, the adhesive is slightly visible. I first noticed this when I had the lock replaced on my check-in large. The staff simply peeled back the lining where the lock was located and unscrewed the broken part from the inside. I understand why it's designed that way. It makes repairs more sustainable and accessible since they don't need to replace the entire shell just to fix one component. But it does make me wonder how long that adhesive will last before it starts to lose grip. Probably not for another 8 to 10 years, maybe even longer, but it's something to keep an eye on for long-term ownership. The second thing I've noticed is more common with the check-in large, and it has to do with dents. As I mentioned earlier, aluminum dents easily, and depending on where it happens, it can affect how the suitcase closes. If the dent forms near the edge where the frame meets, it can cause a slight misalignment. When that happens, opening and closing the case isn't as smooth as it should be. Eventually, I might have to take it in to have the frame reshaped to fix the issue. Another small observation is with the latches on the handle side. The uneven tension there might be related to that same misalignment, or it might actually be intentional, designed to add a bit of traction when you close it. I can't say for sure, so if anyone knows the answer, let me know in the comments. One little trick that helps is to slightly push the top inward before opening the case. That tiny bit of pressure realigns the frame just enough to skip the struggle and makes the motion feel smoother. Over the past 2 years, I've come to really appreciate certain aspects of these suitcases, the parts that continue to make a difference every single trip. The first one is the wheels. RIMOWA's multi-wheel system is genuinely impressive. Each wheel is mounted on ball bearings with cushioned axles, which gives that smooth, effortless glide they're known for. It's something you don't think much about until you need it, like when you're pulling 2 suitcases with one hand and pushing a stroller with the other. The ease of maneuverability makes a real difference when you're navigating through busy airports. Definitely a lifesaver for parents. That said, no wheel works in Rome. When we were traveling there, the cobblestone streets don't care how advanced your suitcase is. Nothing glides there, which leads me to the second part I've really come to trust. The handles. When the wheels just can't do their job, or when you need to lift the suitcase to get over uneven ground, the stepless, stage-free telescopic handle makes it much easier. Sometimes I do worry about stressing it too much, but it's held up perfectly even after countless lifts. Still, I wouldn't recommend making a habit of it. That's not how it's meant to be used. That's why the top and side handles are there, for whenever you need to lift the suitcase. The designs differ slightly between the original cabin and the check-in large, and you can tell it was intentional. The side handle on the check-in large is half embedded into the suitcase, whereas the one on the original cabin sits on top. Intentional and done precisely. And finally, something I do more often than I probably should, sitting on the original cabin. Especially at airports. Whether I'm waiting in a long queue or can't find a seat at a crowded gate, it's become second nature to just sit on it and rest. The build is solid, it feels stable, and it rolls smoothly even with my full weight on top. Kind of like an office chair on wheels. No wonder RIMOWA eventually collaborated with Vitra to create a stool version. It just makes sense. After 2 years of use, both the original cabin and the check-in large have proven exactly why RIMOWA has the reputation it does. They've traveled with me through airports, hotels, and even cobblestone streets. And despite the scratches and dents, I still think they're worth the investment. Part of that comes down to how well RIMOWA supports their products. When the lock on my check-in large broke in Berlin, the repair was effortless and completely free. No paperwork, no waiting weeks for a replacement. The staff fixed it right in front of me in just a few minutes. That kind of service adds real value to the ownership experience, especially when you're already investing this much into luggage. Of course, 2 years of travel looks different for everyone. For someone who travels even more frequently, their luggage will naturally show more wear. So don't take my experience as a universal truth or a guarantee of how yours will age. This is simply how mine look and perform after 2 solid years of real-world use. And obviously, I'm only showing the black aluminum finish here. Scratches and patina will vary depending on the color you choose. Some tones hide wear better, others highlight it. Personally, I don't mind the cosmetic damage. I think it tells the story of where the luggage has been. But if you prefer your things to stay pristine, RIMOWA's aluminum line probably isn't for you. You simply can't baby them. That's all for my 2-year review. I'll come back and share another update around the 5-year mark to see how much further these have gone and how well they continue to hold up. See you in the future.